Honorable members, I wish to take the opportunity at this time on your behalf as well as mine to welcome our newest senator, Senator the Honorable Charlene Rolanda McQueen. Senator, it's a pleasure indeed for me to receive you in the Senate. I look forward to your contributions. It's a singular honor to sit in this chamber. We are essentially a chamber of review, and we are part of the inherent structure and system of making laws. We make these laws for the purpose of good governance, for the order and safety and well-being of the citizens. Our role is a unique one and a very fundamental one because it gives expression to our belief system of democracy through representation of the people, for the people, and by the people. So the opportunity presented to you to represent the people is indeed an exceedingly honorable one. My review of your background and your brief biography informs me that I have well-founded confidence in my expectations that you will execute your responsibilities and duties fully, without fear or favor, that you will review the legislation that comes before us in the interest of the people. You will bring your own independent thought and that of your constituents to bear. As a young upcoming entrepreneur in the world of entrepreneurship, it's not an easy world, as I know you would have discovered by now. It is fettered with a lot of many aspects of the past that you will have to confront. And the little that I know of your company, in fact, without giving you any advertisement at all, the Senate indulges in the consumption of your product. Yes. So I know that you are fortified with the knowledge of entrepreneurship. Yes, and I look forward to your valuable contributions in this chamber, and I welcome you. I will allow at this moment for you to make your maiden opening speech. And throughout the course of today's sitting, individual senators may wish to add their own views and extend their own hearty and profound welcome to you to the House. So at this point, I will invite you to the floor, where you may wish to address the nation and to set out your agenda as the newest amongst us. So once again, I take the opportunity to welcome you and wish you all the best. My office is always open for any question which may confront you, because, you know, the Senate is made up of all of these rules. Parliament is really a very conservative institution, bounded by rules and procedure. A lot of the procedures sometimes are not extensively documented, so you may wish to consult with the clerk or to consult with me directly. I have an open house. All my telephone numbers are public, including my private number. So in a sense, I'm not private. So once again, I want to welcome you to the House and look forward to your most valuable contributions. And I thank you, honorable members.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, thank for the invitation to make a maiden comments to this upper house. And I beg your permission to be able to generously refer to some notes that I have put together for this occasion. Mr. President, I thank you for your welcome to this chamber and look forward to your continued support and guidance throughout my term here. I also want to place on record my sincerest appreciation for the showing of support by all members of all sides of this House. I am both inspired and encouraged by everyone's generosity. I will honor the rich history of this chamber, and I hope to make a positive impact on lawmaking that will set the foundation of something greater for the next generation. However, firstly, I am here to serve the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. By standing here, Mr. President, must also be seen as a grand tribute to my forefathers and to my family and friends that have laid the trail against many odds, so that their daughter can be given the opportunity to blaze her own path. Indeed, I have been afforded the honor to stand in the High House that only a select few have been afforded in our 47 years of independence. As significant as this is, I view this as a part of a journey and an important chapter in the story of Grenada. I stand here as a proud product of my village, the Grenadian village, that has come through streams that run through Carriacou, Mamakian, and Munich. I am here because of this Grenadian reality. But I am also here as a symbol of my people's dreams and aspiration. Let me say up front that I'll be forever grateful to the leader of Her Majesty's opposition, Honorable Tobias Clement. Thank you. Who nominated me and who in his wisdom felt I have a contribution to make in helping to advance a better Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. While this is essentially a lawmaking body, it must concern itself about building a just society. Mr. President, it is no news that we have problems in our country that need to be fixed. How about we complain about them, blame the government and the system, and finish up saying the system is unfixable? How about we stop playing the blame game and try to do a little bit at our end to bring about some changes? Let us remember that it is the mandate of Grenadian people that has placed us in this house. And it is our duty and privilege to serve them and not the other way around. After all, it starts with us and ends with us. We need to stamp out corruption in all forms and places. Corruption typically results in many years of general hardship and suffering of the mass majority of citizens. Corrupt governments routinely ignore economic and social problems in their quest to amass even more wealth and power. Let us have a government of openness, freedom of press, transparency, and access to information. We cannot change everything at once, but if we choose wisely, work together transparently, flexible, and honestly, progress in a few areas will lead to progress in many more. We are standing here at a time of great pain and uncertainty. We have lost millions due to the action of foreign investors who took advantage of relaxed rules and regulations put in place by the government. To re-establish trust, it is important that the government provide accurate and complete information on all transactions regarding the financial consequences of economic, political, and social decisions. I find myself wondering, how did we get here? Why are we struggling so hard to find real progress? There are hundreds of talented, passionate, motivated, and capable Grenadians who deeply care about Grenada and want it to thrive, yet nothing happens. We are stuck in the same place as people struggling to survive. Dead last in the country for employment and economic opportunity. Rather than a useful job in our country, people have been offered bureaucratic make work. Rather than a normal leadership, they have been given promises and circuses. Aimlessness among our youth. Anxiety among our elders. And corruption in the highest offices. We as lawmakers are also standing here at a time when we need to strengthen rules and regulation that will protect workers, women and children against an expanding appetite for exploitation. That it, if not stemmed, will devalue our very nation. And so, Mr. President, I want to be part of this team that will be a watchdog for the new Grenada rising. I am the last of 11 children, born to parents who were among the first of the Windrush generation, who left their children behind with grandparents in search of greater opportunities in the United Kingdom. As a result, I have spent very little time with my parents, losing my mother at the tender age of 5 and my father a few years later. My mother was a trader, what we call locally a trafficker, and my father a farmer. As with many black families of that time, my father was afforded little formal education, but he was a brilliant man. But he was a brilliant man who was about family. My mother was a dreamer. And she was determined that the children should have more educational opportunities than they had. So the very firstborn, my brother O'Brien Marquin, was the first in my family to have had a secondary education. An old student of GBSS. He also, many years later, became a government minister and a member of parliament. I attended Carriacou RC School and finished my secondary education in the United Kingdom. Mr. President, I want to be counted here, not as part of the problem, but an advocate for the solutions. The law we validate here must not be done in a vacuum. It must be in keeping with the requirements of a modern, progressive society. My mandate, Mr. President, as I understand it, must be born out of moral conscience that advocate laws that will support policies that will empower people rather than neglect them. Mr. President, you can count on me to be part of this debate that focuses attention on protection of the environment and that will afford better health care to our people. Mr. President, as I understand it, Mr. President, we are all meant to be here as independent voices that will stand up against draft bills that undermine our independence. Mr. President, this upper house must be seen by all Grenadians, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, as a force for good, for stability, and for justice. And in that regard, Mr. President, there is a lot of work to be done. So, rest assured, I have shown up for duty. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McSween. Clerk. No, let's proceed. Mm-hmm. So, Senator Steele. Senator Steele, yes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to add my words of welcome as your generous comments, Mr. President. Senator McQueen, we certainly look forward to the contribution that you will make to this honourable House. And I believe you have a great deal of experience. Your personal experiences, your business experiences, I think will lend themselves very well in terms of the work of the Senate. So I wish you all of the best. When I hear comments, and time will tell, I mean, there's the senators on the opposition side, it's been like a revolving door in this session of Parliament, so I certainly hope you're here to see things through, and as said, welcome that contribution. When I hear comments such as bills that undermine our independence being a force for good, I question what we've been doing for the years that we have served here, because I'm certainly of the opinion all of us and all of those who have sat before you have also been a force for good. We have a great responsibility, as the President outlined, in terms of the role of the Senate and the role that we play in the national discussion, our democracy, and our national development. And I think all of us take great pride in the work that we do and the contribution we make. and time will tell the contribution you would make, but welcome, and we look forward to the start today as we get down to the nation's business. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Steele. Senator Joseph.
Pleasant good morning, Mr. President, my colleague senators, good morning. I would like to take this opportunity, Mr. President, to welcome the goodly lady, our new senator, Senator McQueen, to this noble house. Senator McQueen, as you can see, has already added some color to this house. And I know that there is much more color to come. I personally have not known Senator McQueen much. I've seen her on television. And I do know that she's a very competent business person. Senator McQueen, in this house, there are challenges. And I know you are up to it, based on your history. I will not go into what the history is all about. So I just want to be very brief and say congratulations, and I'm looking forward to your contributions and also to working with you. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And on behalf of Labour, I wish to welcome Senator McQueen to the upper house. We look forward to her contribution. And those of us who have followed her brief history would expect that once the senator continues along the line of standing up for what she believes in, we can expect her to be of human service to Grenada. Senator McQueen, I welcome you, and I look forward to our engagement as we work together on this side and the whole house for the betterment of Grenada. I wouldn't comment too much on the color that you have bring in terms of the color, because that might be on the other side, but I just noted. Thank you very much.
Senator St. Clair.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, honorable members. And I want to take this opportunity as afforded right now on behalf of farmers and fisher folks to welcome you. As you say, you're the generations of the Windrush. But I think most significantly, what I was touched by is your father being a farmer, your mom being involved in the trade, the trafficking, so it's all part of the agriculture sector. Of course, your roots inside of Munich is deep historical and cultural as it relates to our cassava and all of our history. I know that you have gone further in through your water, so you are taking it beyond your parents. Your brother, of course, I know very well. Not only as a parliamentarian, but farmer, but also as a musician. I welcome you. The word justice that you said stand out very well, because as we review matters, as the president would have alluded, it's all about justice, yeah, wherever it would have to fall. And I would add, justice at all times must also be balanced. I would end by saying that I'm very happy for you, not only for being here, but also adding, I wouldn't say colors, but adding to the gender situation in the house. I think that's a very good addition. And of course, we don't have our dear sister Sincere here today. So I really think it's a good moment for women in this country today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator St. Clair. Okay, clerk, I think we can proceed. Oh, okay. As I said, it's optional. You can make a contribution now or do your welcome when you are dealing with the more substantive.
Thank you, Mr. President.
items.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good morning, honorable members. I just wanted to join those who went before me, including yourself, Honorable President, to warmly welcome our new senator to the House, Senator McQueen. As she has alluded, the McQueen is a name that is not new to Parliament. We have had McQueens before. I, as opposed to some of the other members, have not followed your history very deeply, but I've known of you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and of course, I look forward, like most of us are looking forward, to hearing your contributions and being a part of the solution as you claim you want to be. That's what most of us have entered this honorable House to do, and I know there would be a lot of work along the way. Sometimes we would not always see eye to eye on issues, but at the end of the day, what matters most is that the country and the people of this country benefit from whatever we are able to contribute. So welcome from us on this side, and from me in particular, and I look forward to the engagement as we move along. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Bowler.
Item 4, confirmation of minutes.
Senator, the Honorable Simon Steele.
Mr. President, I beg to move that the minutes of the proceedings of a sitting of the Senate held at the Parliament Chamber, Mount Weldale, St. George's, on Wednesday the 2nd and Tuesday the 8th of June 2021 be taken as read.
The question is that the minutes of the proceedings of the sitting of the Senate held at the Parliament Chamber, Mount Weldon, St. George's, on Wednesday 2nd and Tuesday 8th June 2021 be taken as read. All those who are of that opinion say aye. To the contrary view, say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. Senator Steele.
Mr. President, I beg to move that the minutes of the proceedings of the sitting of the Senate held at the Parliament Chamber, Mount Weldale, St. George's, on Wednesday the 2nd and Tuesday the 8th of June 2021 be confirmed.
Honourable members, Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I propose 2 amendments to the minutes?
Certainly.
Yes, Mr. President, on page 120 of the minutes, at the penultimate paragraph, where it reads, the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, that should be Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Noted.
And lastly, on the following page, page 121, also in the last paragraph, Mr. President, where it reads Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, that should also be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Noted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Honourable members, the question is that the minutes of the proceedings of the sitting of the Senate held at the Parliament Chamber, Mount Weldon, St. George's, on Wednesday 2nd and Tuesday 8th June 2021, as amended, be confirmed. All those who are in favour say aye. To the contrary, say nay. I think the ayes have it. The ayes do have it. The said minutes are confirmed with the amendments.
Item 5, messages from the Governor General. Item 6, announcement by Mr. President.
Honourable members, I wish to first of all apologize for our late commencement this morning, which you can attest is very unusual. We normally start on time. But this morning, because of a matter which you will learn more in depth of when we come to that item, I had to confer with 2 senators, and that took a bit of time to get done. The details of which, subsequent to this, when we come to the item, you will learn more about it. The second matter is, honorable members, I wish to indicate that I did receive a notice of purposeful absence from the Senate from Senator, the Honorable Tessa St. Clair. She is in the process of, she's a doctoral candidate and is in the process sometime, I think, this week, if not today, maybe tomorrow, I believe, is to defend her doctoral thesis, a very, very important personal matter for anyone who have entered the halls of academia so far. And she sends her most profuse regrets for not being able to be here, and it's my duty to so inform you. So, honorable members, please take note. That's the end of my announcements.
Item 7, ministerial statements.
Is that Senator Cox? Senator, the Honorable Nolan Cox.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I commence, to give an update on some of the work that is currently ongoing in the ministry that I oversee, which is the Ministry for Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Transport, and Implementation. I too want
to remind that while the standing orders assign a 10-minute, simply because there are only 3 cabinet members here, I have taken the decision to gracefully give you an extended 10 minutes. Because this is a very important item. The Constitution lays out that the cabinet is answerable, which is the executive is answerable to the parliament. And ministerial statements are indeed a report of the work of the executive, and it's reporting to Parliament. It's a very important item on the parliamentary order paper. So Senator Cox, bear in mind that you have an additional 10 minutes, simply by virtue of the fact that it is only half of the members sitting on this side who are cabinet members. If they were all 6, then the 10 minutes rule would be strictly upheld. But because there are only 3 of you, I am giving an extra 10 minutes. The other 30 minutes, I'm divided it equally between the other members of your cabinet team. So bear this in mind. Sorry to interrupt your flow of thought, but just as a reminder. Yes?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the extra time. I was more concerned about the entire duration of the 2-day sitting, as I have other matters to tend to at the day's end. So I don't know if this Honorable House allows for rollover minutes, but maybe that is something that we can consider.
That's a strange concept of the Parliament. We don't have rollovers here.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So as I was indicating, I wanted to also register my welcome to Senator McQueen to this Honorable House as well. As we, my colleagues, we definitely have our way of welcoming our new senators especially, and to ensure that we provide the necessary support and guidance, especially from a procedure standpoint. each one of us could recall when it was our first time, and how important it is to have such guidance as we move forward in deliberating in this honorable house. So thank you very much for accepting the responsibility to serve in this capacity, and so we welcome you. Mr. President, I do want to indicate to us a couple, give an update on a couple of projects, important projects from a national standpoint that the ministry is working on. And the first project that we want to just give an update on is the St. John's River project. That's the River Road area. It's a very important project for the community. We are happy to inform this honorable house that contracts have been issued for the commencement of work of this all-important project. Recently, we saw the flooding of the banks. It's a frequent occurrence when we have extreme precipitation, especially during this period of the year. So the contractor, it's two contractors that we have, the ministry have engaged to perform this work, and so the reason for that is to ensure that we try to move it as quickly as possible. So we have decided to engage two contractors, being a Sunrise Construction and a Creative Design. So they will be implementing that work. The work is to commence from the Steels Auto, that bridge, and to terminate at the mouth of the river. So we are very happy about this project. It's a very important project. The community of River Road have been impacted for decades as a result of flooding, and we do know we have the challenges of climate variability and climate change, which also play an important role, in a critical role in a negative way in impacting communities. We've seen heavier downpours, more intense downpours, and that's a challenge. So the bank of the river is always over flooding. So the contractor is currently been mobilizing in the area. I do know that he's setting up his office space and getting all the machinery and workmen in place to have work started very soon. So I just think it's important that we update this honorable house about this critical project for the community of River Road. The other project, Mr. President, is the Simon Cultural Center. As you know, in 2004, back to Hurricane Ivan, that facility was destroyed in Hurricane Ivan, and we are happy to announce that the tender is out, so it's a public tender. Companies, contractors are free to bid on that project. The community of St. Andrews, I know there's a long-awaited project. We have had a number of logistical approach towards this project, consultations with the community, and to try to bring this center back to the community. It's one that the community is proud of, and they have missed it, and it plays a pivotal role in the whole construct and the cultural aspect of St. Andrews, which has a significant, a rich history in terms of culture for this nation of ours. The Simon Cultural Center was the main highlight for the Calypso semifinals, the Papitet semifinals, which we are very hopeful that we can at least see that very soon next year. But some of the challenges that we are seeing, Mr. President, in terms of the impact from COVID, we've been not able to meet that deadline. We see that there are a number of issues with getting materials from other countries here. Factories are closed down. Recently we saw in Trinidad where the TCL plant, the cement manufacturing plant, was deemed a non-essential facility. As such, they had to close, and we had cement shortages throughout the region. So those are some of the challenges that we are dealing with projects. I always say projects are dynamic. There are things that will just pop up on you overnight, and you will have to make adjustments. But however, we are very happy that the project is out for tender, and as soon as we receive those bids, a suitable contractor will be selected, and work will commence thereafter. Another important
Senator
project.
Cox, if I may, before you migrate from that question onto another issue. I would just bring to your attention for consideration that when the project is completed and you're erecting a plaque, I would very much want to see a recognition of the Ramdani family. You may not be aware of it, but I am aware of it, that the Simoon area, that entire area, was the private property of a Grenadian family, LL Ramdani. And under the period of the revolution, the family donated that entire Simoon lot to the people and the state of Grenada free of charge. There was no transfer of payment or anything. The Ramdani family donated all that lot of land for purposes, the very said purpose you're saying, culture and sport. In recognition of that, therefore, at some point, when the project is completed and you're erecting, I would suggest that consideration be given when you are erecting the cornerstone or whatever it is you normally do, as we have outside there, some recognition of the contribution made to culture and sport by this Grenadian family be done for posterity. So if you could just please make note of that, and I lay that at your feet as a matter of consideration. Yes, because they did so willingly and gave that to the then PRG and the people of Grenada, and I think we should recognize them for that very profound contribution to the country.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your information, and of course putting forward the consideration for the Ramdani family to be considered in terms of recognition towards their donation for the land. I don't see that. I don't believe that is something that the community and the government will be adverse in any way against. However, once we receive permission from the family to proceed with such, I don't see a challenge in that regard. Thank you very much for that, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also want to take this opportunity to update this Honorable House on another important project for the St. Andrews community, and that is the Grenville Commercial Complex. This is a long-awaited project. I do want to recognize the work of the Grenville Commercial Complex Board, which is also is chaired by Ramdani, and the members for the work that they have done to get this project to where it is now. Mr. President, I want to make this point that sometimes it is believed that projects are just, we can just start in the morning and just do our project. There are a number of critical steps. There are a number of steps that are required for a project to meet a particular stage or to meet the implementation stage. And some of it is from a technical standpoint, some of it from a legal standpoint. And as such, sometimes we do get calls from the public to expedite, and they find that it's going slow. But it's because of those critical requirements to ensure that we do the checks and balance so that when we start to implement, we do not have a problem. We do not have failure in the integrity of the structure. We do not have an issue contractual-wise. So those are some of the things that we have to deal with in terms of the project, especially a project that costs billions of dollars. It is important that we do due diligence before we get to that part. So I think it is critical to raise that. Mr. President, I also want to mention the bolt arrangements, our build, operate and lease transfer projects. We have 2 projects on stream right now. That is the establishment of a new fire station in the Grandlands area, and of course the building of the new halls of justice that will host all of our courts, the registry, even some of the courts that we do not currently have. We do hold those, but in terms of the construct, the configuration, we do not have those courts, like for example, family court and things like that. So this new structure, which will be not far from this building, is the design for that structure is currently completed and approved. It's going to be a excellent facility. We have done all the necessary consultations. The OECS Supreme Court was the lead in terms of consulting. They indicated what they wanted, a number of back and forth. The Grenada Bar Association also contributed towards those designs, and almost all the requests was met and worked on to ensure that whenever that facility is constructed, the stakeholders will actually be satisfied and use it to the purpose that it was designed for. So currently, what is happening with those two projects is that the development agreement that is currently being constructed, one of those agreements is currently at Legal Affairs. Legal Affairs is doing the due diligence in terms of negotiations. And so soon, those two agreements, we expect them to come to Cabinet for formal approval, and thereafter, we will see commencement in terms of implementation on the ground. So this is a long-awaited project, especially the courthouse. I know that the persons in the legal community, they are going to be happy to have such a facility, which they themselves has indicated what they want. So we are happy to report on this project. Mr. President, another of the bold project is the Governor General residence, which is just a few yards away from here. Currently, what we are doing, we are engaging a prospective bold provider, and they are working, the Governor General has her team of a committee, a special committee, who they are working on designs in looking to restore the building, to retain most of its historical construct, and to add some new modern aspects of it to complement that residence going forward. So you'll hear more about this project as well. The Feeder Roads project, Mr. President, that project is currently ongoing. We just recently mobilized, the contractor just recently mobilized in La Pastora. That is a road that has been long awaited. We also looking to mobilize very soon in the Willis Constantine area. Currently, what we are working on is the surveyors. They're doing some resurveying of the road to ensure that we maximize the road width, and to also in terms of safety and the integrity of the roadway and the road network, that is currently ongoing. Work is ongoing on the Munich Bridge currently as well. Work is going on the St. George Estate. That road the bridge is completed, and the road work is also ongoing as well. So, Mr. President, we want to just to inform the public of this work, and of course, these roads are critical for our farming community, and of course, our representative for the farmers are here. And one of the things that we have instructed and have the discussion with the contractor is that there might be roads that are currently not within the scope of works, but if this is in proximity of farms that require assistance, we have had that discussion to see if we can vary the contract and add roads to ensure that farmers close by can get that support in terms of roadway. Mr. President, I want to speak a little bit on Grenlec, on the new generator. Mr. President, as you know, the government of Grenada acquired the majority of shares from WIB, and as such, are the main shareholders in Grenlec currently. And as such, when we acquired, there was a significant deficiency in terms of the generation end. One of the major engines was out for some time, was down and not repairable. However, in our initial assessment, the government of Grenada, of course, took swift action on the 1st of March, signed a contract to purchase a new generator. That generator has arrived on island sometime in June, I think early June, and we are working based on our schedule. That new generator should be commissioned on or before the 31st of July. So I think it's critical for the public to understand that we are working towards ensuring the energy security of this country, because as we see the country start to open up, we have new commercial activity coming on stream, more hotels and other businesses we anticipate the university is going to be opening up back recently. And they're coming on stream, I think it's sometime on the 15th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Sometime tomorrow, I think students should be start coming back in. And that will see the demand for energy will go up. As such, the company are prepared and in a better position in terms of energy security on the generation side, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just want to also just to speak to a number of other works that we are doing and the challenge that we are faced with in terms of the road networks. We have received a number of complaints on the general conditions of the road, and we are doing the necessary assessment, and I'm happy to inform this Honorable House. In a matter of weeks, we are going to commence a significant road resurfacing with asphalt on our main roadways. So very soon, our road users are going to see some better quality roads. We have been doing some maintenance work in the interim. There are a number of challenges, Mr. President. The issue in terms of materials and supplies, in terms of the gravel. Like, for example, when we have heavy downpours, the quarry cannot do any crushing because it's going to interfere with the quality of the material. So there are a number of intricacies that will interfere with how we implement. And so I not just to bring those to bear, but just to give an indication that it is not just a smooth process, but we are working, Mr. President, to ensure that our roadways are restored in the best manner possible and to ensure that we have a safe movement of traffic. Another important update, Mr. President, I want to bring to this Honorable House have to do with the Brothers Bridge and Slope Stabilization Project in Guave. That project was out for tender. The tenders are back in, and we are waiting on the Caribbean Development Bank for no objection. So as soon as we receive that, we are going to see work commencing very soon on that area. We have already done work on the bypass road, the alternative road that will be used when we demolish that bridge and when we commence that implementation work. So we are happy how we're progressing with that. Mr. President, another important project, which is the Molinier Western Main Road project. We understand the challenges that this is having, not just on the northern part of the island, but on the country as a whole. It has caused a number of inconveniences, increase in business operations, more pressures on some roads that are not adequate for the amount of traffic that they are seeing right now. So we are working together with our partner, the Caribbean Development Bank, to ensure that we get this project implemented as soon as possible. We expect a visit from members of the bank and also from the UK High Commission this week. I think they're already in Grenada, and we're going to have some discussions to move this project along as quickly as possible. This project is impacting the communities of the Cherry Hill area, the Bossejou area. Little or no economic activity is taking place because why? The lack of vehicle activity, lack of persons moving through that Molinier area, of course, kill some of those businesses. And that is the challenge that we have. A number of livelihoods have been significantly affected by the slippage in the Molinier area, Mr. President. So be rest assured that we are well aware of the challenges that persons are having, and we are going to do everything possible in the quickest time to restore that area, Mr. President. Mr. President, these are a few updates I just wanted to lay at the House at this point in time. If there are anything that didn't mention, I can always bring it to this Honorable House at another date, another sitting. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Cox. Yes, Senator. Actually, I caught Senator Joseph first, but if you wish to allow Tim to remain on his feet, you can indicate. Senator Joseph.
Mr. President, I crave your
Let me just explain for purposes of Senator McQueen. Under the item of ministerial statements, which I explained before, various ministers report to the Parliament what the executive has been doing. And that is under the provisions, I don't have it just off the top of my head, but the Constitution does set out that the executive is, I'll find it in a while, and send it to you maybe in a note, is answerable to the Parliament. So we have the ministerial statements. And under ministerial statements, you can ask the minister a question of clarification or for expansion on what he has reported. The chair will determine whether or not the question put is fair in the context of the minister giving the ministerial statement, whether or not he would have had the adequacy of information that you will require. And if he doesn't have it, I would direct that you put that question under the normal question so as to give the minister time to answer. But you may wish him to clarify something that he said. So under this item, the questions are, and I want to emphasize this, the questions are not the prelude to a debate. The questions are exclusively contained to the report given to the House, either by way you wish an expansion of what is given or a clarification of what is given. And it is distinctly different from the provisions of your right to questions, which is a separate item on the order paper. Yes, so I just thought I would clarify that for you. And as a reminder to others, yes, because I may intervene if the minister says, well, look, I don't have the answer to that, I will intervene and suggest that you send that question to the clerk under the normal question and answer provisions of the standing orders. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. President, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. If I'm out of order, then I'll take my seat.
No, you can't comment on a ministerial statement. You could
thank you very much.
Clarity, yes, yeah, because that's a prelude to a debate.
Yeah, I'll deal with that later.
Huh? That's a prelude to a debate. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Because he's telling you what he has done, whatever you're going to comment on, what he has done. If you, as I say, if you want clarity on what he has reported, you're free to do so, but it's not a prelude for a debate. And once you start to make comments, if he finds your comment not favorable, then I will have to give him the opportunity to respond, and there starts a debate. So it's not an opportunity for a debate, it's an opportunity for clarification or expansion, or maybe an opportunity for some suggestion which you may wish to make. Yes? Senator Dialli.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to members. Let me also take the opportunity to welcome Senator McQueen to the House. I know she comes with a strong business background, and probably I will get some more support as it relates to business and when we debate certain issues. So I welcome her and I wish her well as we traverse this upper house and the matters that come before us. Mr. President, through you, I have a couple of questions for Senator Cox. And regarding the River Road project, is there a time estimated to complete the works, and what is that? Are there any proposed changes that is going to be made to the river course in particular, understanding that that is part of the reasons that caused some of the flooding with the excessive water? And in terms of, again, the volumes of water, are there works to increase the banks in terms of the river banks on either side in terms of height or so to adjust and to safeguard the issues with flooding in River Road? As relates to the halls of justice, is there provision for mediation facilities to be accommodated through the halls of justice? As Senator Cox and you may well know, I'm an avid mediator, so I want to make sure there is provisions for such. And in relation to the roads and what was reported, could you give us an idea of the status of the asphalt plant? As I have been told that The asphalt plant has been in breakdown mode for many times, and we have difficulty getting hot mix to repair the roads and the holes in the roads and so on. So if you could give us status on that. And as a side to that, Mr. President, with your leave, based on the issues that we have been seeing with flooding, with the excessive rainfall and precipitation in recent weeks, is there any move by your ministry to attack the drainage issue from the point of view of not really cleaning up the drains? I have seen that happening. But in terms of the exit of the water from these drains, if I could cite Montrouge as an example, and the exiting of the water to the end, is there any intention to deal with those drains like Montrouge, the one by Radisson, and so on and so forth, in terms of the exit of the waters? Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, let me thank my Senator colleague for those important questions. As regards to the St. John's River project, in terms of the time, our initial estimation when we construct the project was for 4 months to have those works done. However, based on the interruptions that we will experience as we're in the rainy season, we can see implementation going up to about 8 months or maybe even 10 months. So we are working basically with the weather, if you can put it like that. We are cognizant of that, but we felt because of the importance of the project, we didn't want to delay in any way. And also what it is doing now, it gives an opportunity for the contractor, the consultants. That last incident that we had, while it creates some disturbance, inconvenience, and some water damage, it also provided valuable information for the implementation of the work to actually see what is taking place. So that was the contractor, the consultants, they were on site when the actual flooding was taking place. So in terms of the scope of works, from what we know, what is really causing and the initial site of flooding, of breaking of the banks, is just a little way off Steels Auto. And the reason for that, because there is almost a 90-degree turn that the river has to make there, and that is causing it to overflow. So the scope of works will entail dredging, ensuring that the river is deeper to accommodate larger volume of water. It will include, of course, having reinforced structures on the embankment that will allow for a quicker flow, and of course it's going to be higher to allow for the volume of water to move through. And the curves are going to be smoothed out to ensure that the meandering of the river is done. That's where the main challenge is, because you're moving from one 90-degree to another 90-degree, and then it goes down to the mouth. So the consultant, they have done a lot of hydrological work, a lot of data. We even reached out to Barbados, to St. Vincent, to collect some of the hydrological data to give us a sense of the amount of rainfall that we experienced around this time. I think the data went back as far as 30 years. They were trying to get information as far as 30 years to help develop this design. So some work has gone into it, and so we are very hopeful that this will in some way eliminate the issue of overflowing at the banks at the St. John's River. There are two other components. Is the two bridges we're supposed to replace those two bridges as part of the project. However, we are not in the business of destroying bridges. Normally we don't break down bridges, but we'll normally add. That is the normal process that we take. But in some cases, with the structural integrity, like for example the steel bridge, which is pretty flat and low, I can see that bridge might need to remove, and it might have to come up higher with an arch to allow for the flow of water on it. That is another challenge again. So as regards to the humpback bridge, because of the history of that bridge, it does not normally overflow in its entirety. That can remain for pedestrian purposes, and a new bridge can just go alongside it. So those are the discussions that is taking place regarding the bridges. So because there is a cost for demolishing as well. So why demolish when you can just use for pedestrian purposes? The Halls of Justice, I think you indicated a request for the arbitration. I believe so. Mediation, I believe so, but that can be verified. I can share with you a copy of those designs so we can verify that, but I believe so. And a lot of thought have gone into this building. Actually, we had to add an extra floor on the building to accommodate the recommendations from the legal fraternity, so that can increase the cost of the project. So a lot of thought have gone into that. As regards to the asphalt, the supply of asphalt, Mr. President, just recent as yesterday, I personally had a communication with the asphalt suppliers, and they have indicated that both plants, even the old one that wasn't working, they indicated to us that it is up and running now, so both asphalt plants are working. And as a result, tomorrow we're going to have a meeting with them together with one of our prospective contractors, engineers, as we plan out to roll out the asphalt work. So we are happy that they have got both plants up and running. So that is good news for us, and we are encouraged by that. And so as I indicated earlier, in the coming weeks, you will see some more significant work being done on our roadways. We'll do some milling and relaying asphalt to we can get some significant years out of the work that we're going to be doing. So thank you very much for those questions. Montrouge, yes, we have been doing some work in the Montrouge area. It's a critical area because, it's a business zone area. What we have a grant support coming for a study to be done for that area, including St. George's area. Currently, where we are, I think the evaluation of the bidders is currently ongoing. They already did the technical evaluation, and now the financial evaluation is going. So as soon as that is completed, preferred consultants will be selected to conduct that study, the flooding of the area. But I foresee that infrastructure work will have to be undertaken to maybe even to build the sides of those drains, make them a little higher. And of course, the mouth of the river is where the challenge is. We have commenced cleaning even before the rainy season, but what you find happening is that we'll have to monitor. So we're having some discussions in terms of adding more environmental wardens so that we can have that frequent cleaning at the mouth of the waterway, the drainage. Because when the high tide come and you have those constructive ways, you have sand deposits coming up. And also, when we have those destructive ways, it will take away the sand. But we have to be monitoring it. So we recognize that there is a need for more hands to clear the mouth of the river. So we have some discussions with the business persons in the area, and they have been given some historical context of what transpired. And we are working well with them to ensure that we keep it tidy as much as possible, so that whenever you do have those heavy precipitation, if it takes place occurs during high tide, of course it's going to have a slower run out. But the fact is that it will drain very quickly as the rain subsides. So thank you very much for raising that. And that is a critical issue for the Grenada area, and we're going to find a way to resolve it. Thank you.
Yes. Senator Cox, while you're on that subject matter, again, just to emphasize that the front end roadway in the Grenada Beach area there, between the lots where the mall is and to the back of the mall, those drains need immediate attention. They're partially blocked by weed. Earlier, they were unblocked, but the stuff was left on the side of the road, washed back into the drains, and I can tell you that when the weather changes in the upcoming week, it's going to create a flooding situation there for the community. So if urgent attention, just to move all the weed and all the goo that has built up there on the side of Spice, Sir Royston Hopkins property going down there. And of course, you relate the movement of the tide affects it. I can tell you some time ago that consideration was given to an automated pump, which can be installed, and it is automated and sensitized by the level of the water. And an automated pump, I know, was an engineering consideration which was given at one point. If you go back into the files, you would see some engineering suggestions done since under PRG for that area there. You may wish to revisit them and see how relevant they may be in the current period. But you need to pay immediate attention to the clogging of the drains, which currently exists as I speak to you.
Thank you very much for that observation and recommendation, Mr. President. As regards to those recommendations for remedying the flooding, like in the case of the pump, I know that in other countries I've seen it work, and it has worked perfectly. For example, I did have to spend some time in Guyana. You know, Guyana is below sea level, so I've seen that work. So yes, those are measures that can be employed once we do the proper analysis, of course, and guidance in terms of a technical approach. We can have this done, but it's something that we need to fix.
Other thing is they've left a lot of debris in the drain.
Yes,
just above the cemetery. Above the cemetery in Grand Anse. The next rains, you're going to see significant flooding taking place there if they don't remove that debris. The other thing is this: all over the world in modern society, people work at night. So please, if they have to clear the drain, let them do it at night, after most work is finished, rather than to do it in the day and have a backup of traffic, 8 o'clock, that comes from around Food Fair, going all the way down back to where Butler House used to be. Simply because some subcontractor who's been given a job decides to undertake the clearing during the height of the rush hour. So whatever you do, and that contributes negatively to the economy because a lot of man hours are lost in the traffic. I mean, why can't they work at night? When business places are closed, most people are home, the traffic is light. Why are they only working in the day, in the middle of the rush hour?
Mr. President, your observation are quite noted. Recently, we have had conversations with the team in that area, and it's for that same reason that you indicate that it is creating a challenge. What we observed was that they were doing the cleaning during the day, and then the collection takes place at night. So with even doing the cleaning during the day, what it is also creating an issue with the traffic because of the debris that is placed close to the side of the road. So we have observed, and we're going to change the approach to ensure that we get the work done effectively and also to keep the traffic moving as smoothly as possible. So thank you very much for that, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Yes, can I make a suggestion to Senator Cox? You said the problem in Simon been going on since after Hurricane Ivan. I just wanted to suggest why is the work being done in the rainy season? Because you said you have a problem, and why wasn't it planned? You said it's been happening that length of time. Why is it taking so many years? And why you're doing work like this in the rainy season where you have to stop?
Mr. President, I'm not sure if it's the St. John's River or the Simon. Simon? Well, no, Simon is the issue with the weather is not a challenge for Simon, but it's more for the St. John's River because, of course, the flooding. The challenge with Simon is one in terms of input materials. A lot of high steel H-beams are going to be required for work on Simon, and that is going to have to be imported. And because of COVID, that is where the challenge is going to be. And what we are finding out is that the longer we delay those projects, we are going to have cost implications. Costs is going up, shipping, freight costs is going up, and other costs are going up. So as such, we do not want to delay this project any further because it's going to impact on us negatively from a financial standpoint. So it's a little challenge in terms of why it took so long. A number of things. And some of it I don't know. I can't tell you why this project takes so long. In the case of the St. John's River, it's a couple of decades. I think one of the issues that I recall when I investigated, when I started in works, was the first design that was done by the last one before this one that was done by one of the designs were done by the consultant that the bank engaged. When they submitted to the bank failed the design. As such, the project could not have been implemented. So those were one of the challenges that we had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through you, Senator Cox, along the same issue of flooding, and I know you spoke about flooding in general, but I thought it was important to make a plea once again for the people of St. Andrew, especially Grenville, the bus terminus. When slightest rain that falls, the area is normally flooded out, and it's difficult to use. So I just wanted to put that on record again to find out if there's anything, because I think sometime late last year, earlier this year, the leader of government business had made some announcement along that line that it would be addressed. But it's creating some challenges. So just through you.
Mr. President, while I didn't report on the bus terminus, but I know the importance of it, and it falls under my ministerial responsibility. I can report. The bus terminus have a couple challenges. One, when the bus terminus was constructed, there was a gap between the type of materials in terms of the proximity to the shoreline. So what we find happening that the materials that were used, so like the windows, the doors, the locks, you don't have sea blast there, you have sea spray. In the windy time, actually deposits of water fall on the terminus because of the proximity to the shoreline. So that has destroyed all those items like the knobs, the door locks, the hinges, in some cases the windows, in record time. So we are now sourcing more specific items in terms like bronze, wherever the case may be, stainless steel that can withstand that type of weather. So that's the first issue in terms of the boots not being available to vendors. So that was the main challenge. The second challenge has to do with the drainage. Now, because of the proximity to the shoreline, the area is below sea level. And the main drain from the town of Grenville coming out to the shoreline is close by the area. That being said, whenever you have high tide and you have heavy downpour, because it is at the end of the coastline where the bus terminus is being flooded, very easy. So what we have done, our engineers, we have went in there and they have come up, they are working on a design which is almost completed. If I'm not mistaken, it should be ready by now. We are going to install some drains, a drainage network that will receive the water and then run it out quickly. But in terms of having water coming in there, that might be something difficult for us to eliminate. But we are putting measures in place so that the water can run out much quicker than it is right now. Just to make the point, Mr. President, somebody sent me a video a couple of days ago showing me a significant flooding in London. Who could ever believe that? Senator Cedar spends a great deal amount of time in London. Just make the point to say that where you have built structures and tongues, it's very easy for this place to be flooded because of that infrastructure congestion. So I'll make this point to say that when you have more than normal precipitation, you are going to have anomalies because oftentimes the infrastructure work is done for a normal downpour, not for anything excessive like a storm or hurricane in that regard. So those are the challenges that we have for those structures that were currently existing. So the bus terminus, we're going to address that. Also, there was an issue with the lighting. The same reason. The lights were there before. Now, for now, those lights, they broke, they fall down because of the proximity to the coastline in terms of the sea blast, the sea spray. And so we are currently redoing those lights as well. So thank you very much for raising that question. So I can bring an update because even my stakeholders, which is the bus drivers, they have a concern with that. And so we are working on that. I had some dialogue with them on it. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Not me.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Senator Cox, if maybe you could make some clarification for me, that you said that the bus terminus that was built before, it wasn't built properly. If you could please explain to me who will be paying for this new bus terminus? And are the people that you give, do they have any guarantee? Do they guarantee their work?
Thank you very much for clarification. It's not a new bus terminus that is going to be built. Just for clarity, the bus terminus was built some time back to provide support for commuters, Grenville, St. Patrick's, persons coming to the town of Grenville. However, as I indicated in the scope of works, there was an anomaly in terms of not looking at the proximity of the building to the shoreline. As such, some of the inputs that they use could not withstand the weather and the proximity to the sea blast, sea spray. That contract has already concluded, and as such, those works are now the responsibility of the Ministry of Infrastructure, because we have a responsibility to ensure that the facility is of acceptable standard for the users. And so the ministry is going to be implementing those work. All right. So, Mr. President, I hope this helps clarify the issue of the work.
So I would like to know what you have put in place so we will have something solid.
One minute, yes? I would just suggest, Mr. President, I know it's very good for us to receive the level of questions, but if I could suggest, based on the time, the schedule that we have, that if members require further in-depth information, please submit it in terms of written questions, and we'd be happy to provide much more detailed responses, which will allow us to kind of proceed with our other ministerial statements, and we can get on with the main agenda.
Senator McQueen? Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to just give a short update on some of the areas that I am responsible to report on. On the 2nd of July, Grenada was placed on the tropical storm watch. As you know, the first hurricane of the season, we moved tropical storm Elsa, upgraded to a hurricane, would have impacted the region. And while we were under tropical storm watch, the tropical storm watch simply states that within 48 hours, the area of concern is likely to be impacted by storm-like conditions. So we were placed under the tropical storm watch. The I'm happy to report that the advisory that was given to us, the Met Office, was actually spot on. And the guidance in terms of the rain for the period of time. And as you would have realized, after midday, the sun was out again. The precipitation in the local St. George's area and those areas that we said with the advisory, the adverse weather advisory that we would have issued since the Thursday, is that, the Wednesday, those areas likely to experience flooding, or those areas that are so prone to flooding, you can expect to see flooding. And we saw this. So the River Road, the Wester Hall, the Montrouge, and so forth, we had some flooding in those areas. But as we have been able to realize, in terms of when we move around and look at the impact, it was not so much out of the ordinary. We had a lot of water, I should say. From the rain forecast that we've had, or the precipitation forecast, we would have seen Cloget receiving the most amount of rain, just about 4 inches in that 2-hour period. But all in all, Mr. President, I want to take this moment to commend the nationals, the Grenadian people, for one, respecting the advisories that was issued. Unlike August 1st in 2018, we saw folks out in canoes, makeshift rafts, and so forth, and moving in the turbulent waters, be it in the Montrouge area and so forth. We didn't see those pictures this time around. So it means, therefore, that our people recognize that it is dangerous. It is dangerous, one, to mingle in turbulent waters, because you don't know what will be obtained in those waters. And two, unlike 2018 when we saw people trying to drive out, we didn't see those pictures. But yes, we had serious flooding. But I want to commend, again, as I said before, the nationals for heeding the warnings and doing all that they can to protect lives and livelihood. We are very early in the season. It is July. We have at least 4.5 months more in the season to go. And as you will remember, the forecasters would have predicted an above average season, with probably close to 16, 18 named storms. 8 will likely to develop to hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. We have to be ever mindful that with the weather system and with forecasting, it's a forecast. Things can change. So we just have to ensure that we follow the science that has been given to us. Grenada has been fortunate, and we continue to be fortunate in terms of being able to spare the brunt or the wrath of those cyclones. But we never know. We just continue to do what we got to do. The second thing that I want to touch on and probably spend a little more time is Ministry of Health. And Mr. President, we continue to be impacted, and globally that is, by the COVID-19 pandemic. The main issue at this point is people accepting the vaccination that is out there to provide a level of protection from the illness that we've seen as a result of being infected with COVID and the resulting death for those who are not vaccinated. Just to, by way of a reminder, in February of this year, we had a vaccine, a first set of vaccines. So we had access to vaccine in February. In April, we had access to testing locally. And we were way ahead of the curve for a lot of countries in the region. Unfortunately, though, we have seen most of those countries would have moved ahead of us in terms of the uptake in vaccines. And Mr. President, it is common knowledge that our people, I don't know exactly, I can't put my hand on it to say exactly why there is a hesitancy, but our people are refusing to take the vaccines in large measures. One school of thought is because of the conspiracy theories that is out there. One, because of the theories, people are just fearful. So, you're fearful. What are you afraid of? I listened to a video from Dr. Simri Gupta, a respirologist from the University of Toronto, and I thought it was the best in terms of trying to help people to understand the vaccines and to get us to move away from the hesitancy. And I tried to contextualize it to our local setting and to repeat some of the things that he said. Because I think sometimes fear of the unknown is what grips us and causes us to stay away. So let's look at the first 4 vaccines that was approved for use. And probably we'll look at how they work. So you had Pfizer and Moderna. These were the first 2 vaccines out of the gate. Both requires 2 shots, and both are mRNA vaccines. And I think that's where some folks have the fear factor would have came up. So what is mRNA? It's a molecule that our cells use to produce protein. In this case, they have built an mRNA that holds the code for the spike protein of the coronavirus. When that mRNA goes into our cells read the code and produce the spike protein, which then trigger our immune system to make antibodies. In case one might be wondering, what is mRNA? Is a type of genetic material, but it is not DNA. Like I've been hearing all the people being fed. It is not DNA, and it can't do anything to alter your own DNA. So those are the mRNA vaccines. And one of the issues that I've been confronted with, or people are fearful, is because they believe the vaccine will alter your DNA, and basically, man trying to become God. When we understand what the vaccines are made up of, then we realize it's not so. So when we look at the AstraZeneca and the Janssen, what we are exposed to in Grenada is the AstraZeneca that came from Britain. It was developed in Britain. India is the one that would have, under the COVAX system, we first got from. And now we're getting from Italy. So the Astra vaccine requires 2 shots. Janssen requires 1. Both of these use what is called a viral vector. In other words, instead of using mRNA to get our bodies to make spike protein, they use a virus called adenovirus. That adenovirus it is harmless to us, but it's designed to contain the same coronavirus spike protein. When our immune system is exposed to that protein, it creates antibodies that protects us from COVID-19 itself.
Senator Lewis, just 1 second.
Mr. President, on a point of order, I think, and guide me here.
And
Just
the
wanted-
point of order is?
Is this a ministerial report or statement, or I'm trying to?
Where is the point of order?
Well, I'm trying to see. Well,
Mr. President,
I
I'm
thought
not
we
going
are on the ministerial.
Oh, we can't have two senators sitting at the same time. So, well, is it a point of order you're raising on, Senator? And if it is, tell me, draw my attention to it.
Okay, so Mr. President, one might be asking, are
Senator Lewis, yes?
vaccine safe?
On the relevancy, Mr. President, my understanding.
What order? What number on the order, people?
Yes.
What number in the standing orders?
I just missed the number, but I know there is relevance.
Hello?
I just missed the number, but I know that there is a standing order and relevance. So if I can be, so I'm addressing there is something on relevance, and they just missed me. 37. You know we normally work together.
Yes, I have 37.
No.
And this is applicable to what?
I was pointing to 37. I'm trying to find the one on relevancy.
Hello?
I'm trying to find the standing order and relevancy.
Yeah, but you stand on a point of, you stand on a point of order. You have to be able to tell
Yes,
me
I take this.
what
And it
the
had
order
missed me.
is not me. I have no responsibility in.
I take that. I take that. It missed me at the
So
moment.
when you are to be figurative, when you are appropriately clad, then make your presentation.
I take it.
Senator Gawi, could you continue?
I take it, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. President.
In other words, you ought not to venture in public in the nude.
Mr. President, if
So
only.
when you are appropriately clad, bring it to my attention.
Mr. President, if only the member would have resisted the temptation to vain babble, he would not have experienced this.
Hello? Senator, excuse me?
The point is, as I was saying, Mr. President, and we were looking at, trying to say relevancy, I'm speaking on health, and I was looking at the hesitancy of people to take the vaccine. And if there is a hesitancy, why? So I'm trying to assist people to understand what the vaccine is. That was the issue here, but say relevancy. So the question is, Mr. President, one might be asking if the vaccine is safe. And we know that more than 600 million people in the world have taken the vaccine. Yes, there have been some, and as is expected, about 1 in 10,000 people have gotten serious allergic reactions. And it is normal. But that does not, and as the science would have been saying to us, the allergic reactions and the few negative issues, the benefit far outweighs those negatives. But besides this, we are at a state, Mr. President, where, as it is right now, what the world has as an antidote or a solution to COVID-19 are a number of vaccines. Unless we are able to get something else, those who are trying to prevent people from getting this vaccine Probably in some of this jurisdiction, they may be tried for treason. Because there is nothing else that we have available to help. And as we have seen in some countries around the world, they are experiencing the third wave. And those who are unvaccinated, we are seeing they are the ones that are developing serious complications and dying. In Britain, they've had a wave 2 months ago of young people under 30. And it was kind of normal in the sense that they were vaccinating people based on risk factor. And the under 30 and under, they were not yet in the lineup to be vaccinated. And that wave broke out among that age group. So what you had to do is to ensure that that age group get vaccines to stem the tide. And we have seen that. So where there is a wave and people are vaccinated, you're seeing less hospitalization, less deaths. So unless we have something else, Mr. President, to protect our people, for God's sake, let's encourage people to do what is best for them. I am fearful of one fact, Mr. President. The BVI, just about 3 weeks ago, was sailing through like Grenada. And like the blink of an eye, you've seen mass infection and community spread. And the country is reeling right now. We do not want this. We are going into this period where historically, for the last few years, is the carnival season. And people look forward to those times when they exhale. I look forward to hike and so forth. But others look forward to go and gyrate. That is what we see. Yes, we're trying to ensure that we stop it, but it will happen. And my fear is, like what was experienced in 1918, when the Spanish flu came. We're looking at back in the United States, and I heard the leader of the opposition would have related the story and commend him for it. One person came off a boat, and they had this carnival-like activity. One person came off of a boat and was infected with the Spanish flu. And the rest is history, because there was mass infection. Our borders are porous, and we have right around this country increasing rates of infection in Trinidad.
You're at your point of 20 minutes.
So, Mr. President, I would like to ask back for the time that the senator on the other side would have taken away from me. Probably 2 minutes.
Okay, fine.
Thanks. Yes, so I'm fearful that with right around us, Trinidad, St. Vincent, Barbados, with alarming rates of infection of the COVID-19. We have seen a gentleman come from Trinidad into Peter Martinique, Carriacou, Grenada. Thank God he was not infected, because he moved through and then went into call centers and so forth on the mainland. If he was infected, look at what could have happened. My fear, with this August holidays coming up, if one person slipped through the border, Mr. President, and is infected, And with what I'm seeing happening right now with the carnival-like activities, Grenada could be in a bad state. And where we have hesitancy to get the job, this is the fear. I would end by saying, Barbados has just seen another spike. And it pains me because it is linked to a church activity. It's linked to a church activity. And Barbados is under serious wraps right now because folks went to the activity, didn't follow the protocols, and didn't do the necessaries, and we have had an infection. Grenada, we have been spared by Almighty God so far. Let's continue to do what is right to help protect this country as the government is doing what it can to safeguard lives and livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gah.
Sorry. Senator, use this one.
No.
Sorry, I'm getting my way around. Senator Garraway, can I make a suggestion? You said that I could
sorry,
make a suggestion.
No, you can only ask questions, not suggestions.
Okay. Can I ask you then, do you know the history of our people with the experimental drugs that we've been
You want to put that in a question because that will lead to a debate.
I wanted to
I mean, if he says no or yes, then that leads to really a debate.
I'm going to answer.
I don't think at his presentation was not on the...
Because he was saying he wanted to understand why people were frightened of taking the vaccination. And I was going to give him a suggestion of how maybe we can encourage people to take the vaccination, because I have taken it. But a lot of people, I believe we have to go into our communities and speak to people rather than saying, you know, we can try people for treason if they do not take it. So I was just trying to give him a suggestion of how we may be able to do that.
But could I ask, who is suggesting that someone would be tried for treason for not taking the vaccine? Where?
I assure you.
Where did this emerge from?
It said so. It said so. And he said so in...
Mr. President, I humbly suggest, I think we're going off track here. Can we... let me offer my opinion, please, Mr. President. I believe we are going off track here. I think we should concentrate on the substance of the ministerial statements. We're ready. It's not me to dictate the timeline of the proceedings, but we have a lot to get through, Mr. President.
But Mr. President,
I believe if the senator on the other side has a substantive question to ask, we're about to start a debate. I suggest you put it in writing, Mr. President.
Or not, but they're entitled. We can't say to them, you can't ask a question because we're running out of time. That's not how Parliament functions.
I'm suggesting it's not based on time. It's more based on
the purpose
of the ministerial statements and...
Well, let me just say, there's an item the adjournment. You can use the item of adjournment to make a number of suggestions that you think may be appropriate, or alternatively, you can write the senator and say further to the meeting of the Senate when you gave your report, these are the suggestions that I wish to make, or you could submit a motion where the matter could be debated, and it could be the recommendations can be made in your in the resolution part of the motion. Yes? Yes? Yeah, but, you know, it's... Yeah, Senator Joseph. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. President. Now, based on what the Honorable Senator said, the nation is not willing, especially the young people, to be vaccinated. We cannot moan and groan about this. We must come up with a plan, a concrete plan. Yes, I'm coming to my question. Yes, I'm coming to the question right now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, let me just. Okay. So you just okay. No.
If you have a question to the senator, could you just put the question, and he will determine whether or not he's in a position to answer it.
Okay, Mr. President, let me pose my question. The question is, what is the government plan in relation to motivating and encouraging people to come forward? What is the plan to come forward to be vaccinated? What is the plan?
Mr. President, firstly, I want to welcome again the new Senator McQueen, and I heard your passion and so forth, and Mr. Joseph, I'm hearing your passion as well. These are very broad-based questions that is being proposed. I would suggest, in order for I to do justice, because I have to report back to the nation, it should come as a formal question, so I can do the necessary research and provide the information. As you very well know, I am not the Minister of Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's a question that was born in me since last night, and Senator W.I sort of caused it to come out. It's a simple question. On the issue of hesitancy, and you ask yourself the same question, but you didn't give the answer of why. And so my question is, has the government conducted any form of research to give us information in terms of the hesitancy, maybe by age strata, by socioeconomic, by demographics? Has there been any form of research that was done or will be? Thank you.
Senator
Mr.
Williams.
President,
Yes.
I rise on a point of order, specifically Standing Order 16, Nature of Questions. That's 16, subsection 3. Where there is no minister in the Senate who is exclusively responsible for the matter forming the subject of a question, such question may be put to the leader of government business in the Senate. So as Minister Garraway is not the minister exclusively responsible for health, according to the standing orders, those questions should not be put to him, but to the leader of government business.
Yes and no, in the sense that he's been questioned. The question that arises is from his ministerial statement. Now, if he's not in a position to answer, he says so, and then the question will have to be directed to, in a written form, because the leader of government's business himself is not the Minister of Health. And yes?
Mr. President, I just want to say thanks to my fellow senator on the other side for the question. And we're dealing with health, and we all are aware that proper health care, a good health care, is one of the main tenets on which a strong economy is built on. So obviously we want to ensure that we do everything to ensure that we have good health care within the state. As it relates to the question, I am not in a position to report at this point that there would have been a wide-scale research or so. But I'll be more than happy to relate a report back to this Honorable House, the findings. But I will ask the Minister to put it in
just let me
writing.
say, Senator Gawi, because of your initial position, yes, you are not the minister in charge, you are not seized of the information. The senator who asked the question will now have to put that in writing.
Yes.
And he can't put the question to you, because you have no ministerial responsibility for that. He now has to put that to the leader of government's business.
Yes.
And I think that handles that.
Thank you very much.
So, Senator St. Clair, you understand? You've asked on his report on a ministerial statement, you've asked him a question which he does not have the answer for. If you wish to pursue this matter, you will now have to put a request in respect of your question in writing, but you cannot direct that question to Senator Gawi, because he has no ministerial responsibility for this. And the rules clearly state where there's no ministerial responsibility in Section 3, right? The matter has to be referred to the leader of government's business. So that question which you asked Senator Gawi, if you still have an interest in getting a response to it, you have to submit a written question, but directed to Senator Steele, the leader of government's business. We understand the procedure, monsieur?
Yes, Mr. President,
okay, fine.
I understand.
All right. So
but I'm worried.
You're worried?
Yes, I'm worried as to what extent to the senator making ministerial statements, where is that mark beyond which he would not able to answer?
Well, neither you nor I can know that until you pose a question and he gives you a response.
Okay,
so
I understand.
You may not be happy with the response, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Understood.
And in all fairness to him, he would not know what in the statement that he has made would give rise to a question. He doesn't know. I wouldn't know. No one knows until somebody formulates a question. So he can't come prepared to answer any question that may conceivably be asked. Good. So, yes.
Without the argument, Mr. President, a question as whether or not the government has...
No, Senator. No, Senator. I think we've cleared this up and we need to proceed. Yes? Now we're getting into a debate and you're debating with the chair. And that's not allowable. Yes, Senator Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I am always impressed and glad, and I'm fully confident that the President will take charge. Although I was wondering a bit when the leader of government business didn't seem to, go along in that direction.
What is this?
No.
Are you asking a question?
No, I'm asking a question now.
Yeah, well, let's get on to the question. You're setting up a debate, and I would not allow that.
I'm about to ask a question, and I hope I will not be accused of being possibly charged for treason. As said by the minister, you did not report on this matter, but I think it is important to find out. Coming out of the July 2nd.
Well, Senator, if you did not report on the matter, how are you formulating a question to him?
No, well, the question...
You begin by saying he did not report, yet your question... The rules don't allow that, Senator, please.
So, permit me. On the report on the incident of July the 2nd, in terms of the warning on the storm surge, what can be done to mitigate or reduce the level of confusion that resulted in relation to the students traveling to school and having to be faced with not being sure what to do?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Fair question, and it have been Bible some time, man. Mr. President, as it relates to mitigating against the effects of hazards, is one of the things that we pride ourselves in doing at the National Disaster Management Agency, of course with support from our partners. So on the Wednesday prior to the event on the Friday, we were advised there's going to be an issue of an adverse weather bulletin. An adverse weather bulletin gives qualified information as to, one, the level of precipitation, some of the areas that is most likely, and then the qualifying warning. Areas that is so prone to flood should expect flooding. At our emergency management meeting, we look at this and dissect the information that was presented. And all the technical people there look at it. And we had to make decisions based on the information that is given. Albeit, quite a lot of rain was expected more in the north of the island. Yes, we got some of them. The issue as it relates to flooding, and we said so, areas are prone, so like the River Road and the Montrouge and so forth. How can we mitigate against this? By providing information. So we provide information to the general public very early. And like we know in the past, parents decide, well, the rain is very heavy, and because of the ravine in our area, we're going to keep the child home today. That has been the norm throughout our history. And we have provided the information very early, so those information could have been made. And that is the mitigating factor that we thought and we know has worked, and will continue to work. When we provide qualified information to our people, they make the decisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to provide this Honourable House with an update on ministerial areas I'm directly responsible for, but I'll also speak and give a couple of updates under education and fisheries. So starting with the Ministry of Climate Resilience and the Environment, an update, first of all, on some of the challenges that solid waste have been experiencing with the Perseverance dump at landfill site. Over the course of this year, there have been 3 major fires at the Perseverance site. The first and the most significant, that fire started the middle of last year and was successfully tackled at the beginning of this year. That extensifies due to the buildup of methane within the old dump site. It's a site that was constructed many decades ago. The mechanisms for dealing with venting, etc., do not exist at that site. And with the buildup of methane over time, it is liable for fires to start through spontaneous combustion. So significant resources have been spent over the course of the year to address that. Somewhere in the region of $430,000 has been spent, whether it is providing additional access so firefighters are able to access those areas of the site where they're the hot spots, water lines down to Halifax Bay to keep the area doused to control that fire. But as said, with significant resources spent, efforts spent, with the hazards that are associated with that, that issue had been brought under control. There had been 2 subsequent fires in the months of June and this month. Those 2, it's suspected that there is human activity that was involved in starting those fires. The Royal Grenada Police Force are investigating that, but there are, again, considerable resources in containing that. So the history, as I said, is that the construction of that site has perpetuated these issues. The solution that has been put forward, and through support through the Caribbean Development Bank, a $12 million project, an integrated solid waste management project, which is the 2 elements to it. One is the construction of a new sanitary landfill site, constructed to modern standards, which will eliminate the problems that we've experienced with the old dump site. That project is well underway, and that new sanitary landfill site will be commissioned in August of this year. So that leads to the second part, which is the closing and capping of the problematic dump site, where there is commingling of garbage. And their resources have been secured, again, through the Caribbean Development Bank at a cost of $3.3 million. And work will start in capping that and closing that site. So the problems that we've experienced and been experiencing historically will be eliminated. On a second point, again, under climate resilience, and this speaks to Senator Cox and Senator Garraway in terms of speaking to the impacts of climate change, whether it's the impacts of climate change on our infrastructure, whether it is through flooding, extreme weather patterns, whether it's hurricanes, whether it is sea level rise, the vulnerability of our coastal communities, etc. Climate change is having a significant impact, not just us here in Grenada, but globally. Mr. President, there is a major conference that takes place at the end of this year, COP26, a conference of the parties, which will be held in Glasgow. This is the first major climate negotiations coming out of the Paris Agreement that was signed in 2015. And over this last period, those negotiations were delayed, postponed by a year because of COVID. And for some, the issues of climate change and the resources, international resources and support that is required to tackle climate change have been overshadowed by the impacts of the COVID pandemic. The realities are climate change are with us. Climate change and the effects of climate change, regardless if we're able to manage the rise in global temperature, this global challenge to maintain global temperature increases to that magic number of 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is at the heart of those climate negotiations and the global effort that is required to ensure that that takes place. Preparations for this conference have been ongoing. There is a UK ministerial meeting that will be held next month. Grenada is one of a handful of countries that's been invited to partake in that. Grenada will be playing a very active role in the lead up to and those negotiations themselves, the pairing of developed and developing nations to focus on specific work areas. And whether that is the area of ambition, which includes the updating of our national determined contributions, this is the measures every country in the world has a responsibility to develop, which looks at the measures to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, which is at the heart of maintaining and addressing the rise in global temperatures. Whether it's the issue of finance, Senator Cox spoke of the costs, the activities that are taking place within the Ministry of Implementation, the work that needs to be done with regard to our infrastructure, whether that is our roads, whether it's our sea defenses, our public infrastructure. But the need for global financing to enable countries such as Grenada to access the necessary financial resources to protect ourselves against climate change. And one of the major outcomes from COP26 will be securing this global commitment for developed nations to make available $100 billion per year to finance climate adaptation and mitigation measures within developing countries. The whole issue of loss and damage, how developing nations, which contribute the least to climate change, but are the most impacted, again, mechanisms to receive support there. And then finally, what they call the Paris Rule Book, the global rules that will be used to provide transparency to the actions of especially those heavy emitting countries in terms of monitoring their greenhouse gas emissions and how they're going to reduce those over time to meet the net zero targets that we are all working to. And I just want to recognize, once again, the work of two of our climate negotiators, Leon Charles and Spencer Thomas, who over the years have, through their technical input in these fora, have certainly put Grenada on the map in terms of our credibility as advocates in the international work in climate change and climate representation. Mr. President, another initiative that's taken place within the Ministry of Climate Resilience is a project with UNDP, which is looking at the role of technologies, looking at the role of information, digitization in building greater resilience. And that is both at a physical level, economic level, and a social level. And a detailed study has taken place, an inventory of all of the technology-related, digitization-related projects and programs, both within government and the private sector, looking at how those programs, how there could be more of an overarching approach in terms of a vision for Grenada to evolve as a smart, small state, how we can use technology, how we can use those resources that are available there to build greater resilience. And coming out of that project, opportunities for additional funding in the technology area, whether that is for tourism, whether it's agriculture, health, education and capacity building, fisheries. But the work that has taken place as part of this program should open doors for additional financing in some of these areas. Mr. President, moving on to education, I just want to quickly touch on and mention the completion of the CPEA assessment for 2021, and for all of those students who successfully attained the results required for their progression on to secondary school. And I wish to recognize the work of students, certainly, principals, teachers, parents, all the private tutors involved in this. And what was significant about this year's CPEA assessment, last year, because of the disruption through the pandemic, only part of the assessment was able to have been carried out as per previous years. But in this year's assessment, both the internal and external components of those exams were successfully executed. So again, congratulations to our teachers and our principals and the Ministry of Education for enabling that to happen. And then wishing all of our students who are currently sitting their CSEC exams. This is a very stressful time for students, teachers, and parents alike. And I simply want to wish all of our students the very best. From September of this year, Mr. President, every school in Grenada, not just the denominational schools, which currently receive the support of a dedicated manager and spiritual leader to assist in the administration of those schools, providing support to the principals. But that capacity, that additional resource manager will now be extended to all non-denominational schools. So this ensures, and this additional support ensures that principals are able to focus more on the teaching, learning experience rather than on the administrative side. So this will bring great relief to the administration of all of our secondary schools, Mr. President. Moving on to fisheries, just to report on the area of training for our fishers and the fishing sector. Through this SIAP project, that's a Climate Smart Agriculture project, training has been provided for practitioners, whether it is in fish processing, fish handling, CMOS cultivation, CMOS processing. And CMOS is one area that there is great domestic and regional demand, in addition to international demand for CMOS-related products. And as part of that project, investment will be made in solar dryers for the corning of fish and for the drying of CMOS. So helping the sector in terms of that agro-processing component. The final point, Mr. President, is the area of airlift, which has been a challenge for not just our fish exporters, but also our agricultural produce exporters. And there have been challenges over this period with inconsistent flights through Amerijet. Discussions are taking place in terms of how that can be addressed. In the interim, working with fish exporters, the arrangements have been made in terms of chartered flights, which have been organized by our fish exporters, but this is proving to be unsustainable in terms of high costs. But work is continuing both within the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Civil Aviation in terms of looking at longer more sustainable options. And I'll continue to update the House as progress is made there. And, Mr. President, on that note, I'll end my ministerial statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one question for the Leader of Government Business on the environmental issues and the sea level rises, and to find out if, in his many projects that they are conceiving through the various funding agencies, if the Carriacou is an area of priority, understanding what sea level rises and the porosity of that particular Carriacou now, and the urgency of getting some work done there to secure it, as well as create a new area for walk and so on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The answer to that question is yes. So as part of the Climate Smart Cities project, which has been supported by the Green Climate Fund and technical support from New York University, a concept has been developed. Its work has taken place in terms of projections, in terms of the level of sea level rise over the next 30-year period. It's showing that there is significant threats. We're already seeing it in terms of certainly some of the lunar activities, high, low tide. We're seeing the impacts there, let alone if there was a storm surge. So work has taken place not just in the Carriacou, Grenada, and other areas, vulnerable coastal areas, but a conceptual plan is being developed in terms of what can be done that will provide both protection to the onshore properties, providing a barrier to sea level rise, but how that could actually be constructed in a way that will also enhance the Carriacou. And the concept is to create a promenade along the Carriacou so it protects all of those onshore assets, but it is also a tourism enhancement feature that brings significant value to the area. So right now it's simply in concept stage. The next stage is to approach the Green Climate Fund, other funding agencies, in terms of the resources that are required to turn it from a concept into a reality.
Thank you, Senator Steele. Senator McQueen.
Senator Steele, can I ask a question, please? You said that solar...
Permission to ask a question is directed to me, not to Senator Steele. I'm the one who determines.
Sorry.
Yes.
Senator Steele has said they has bought solar equipment for the sea moss and fish, etc. And I would like to ask, have they got market when these entrepreneurs produce the item? Are they going to can they get rid of it?
Senator Steele?
The market is there, Mr. President, but if you want further details, I'd be happy to respond to that in a written question.
Mr. President.
Sure.
My first day here, but it seems like everything we have to write. I'll be writing for a very long time. Thank you.
Well, that will be part of your responsibility once you assume the office.
Thank you.
As a member of the Senate. Senator Joseph?
Yes, Senator Steele, the resource managers, would they be receiving remuneration? The resource managers for the schools, the resource managers, would they be receiving a remuneration? That's one. And secondly, the appointments, would it be made by the Public Service Commission? Thank you.
Senator Steele?
Again, Mr. President, happy for him to put that in writing and through the Ministry of Education provide full details. I do not have that information at hand.
Okay, be guided accordingly, Senator Joseph. Yes? Any other ministerial statements? If there are none, what do? We probably can proceed. I mean, it's 1 second.
Item 8, presentation of papers and reports from select committees.
Mr. President, I beg to move that the following report be laid on the table. Grenada Development Bank Annual Report 2020, GDB.
Honorable members, it is now ordered that the Grenada Development Bank Annual Report 2020 be now so laid. The said report is laid on the table. Again, for the benefit of Senator McQueen, these reports, you can expected to study them, and you can either frame questions out of the reports, or you can frame a motion, as the case might be, yes, out of these reports, yes? So by laying them on the table, it doesn't end there. And this is why I forewarned you that although the Senate doesn't meet every day, not necessarily every week, the amount of work that is required to adequately carry out with effect your senatorial duties can be quite extensive.
Item 9, petitions. Item 10, government notices. Item 11, unofficial notices. Item 12, questions.
Since you're here, I'm not aware whether or not she has charged anybody with the responsibility for asking the questions for her. So I know that you have responses, but she's not here. So what I will do, I will stand down all her questions until the next sitting of the Parliament. And if you already have the answers, you just present them then. But she's not here to pose the questions, stand in her name, not to ask any supplementals. So I will stand the questions down. Clerk, can you be so advised that all questions in the name of Senator the Honorable Tessa Alexander Sincere be sat down until the next sitting of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator St. Clair.
So the question to the Leader of Government Business relates to the Pridia Lassini Fund. And the question would have read, is the Pridia Lassini Fund set out in Section 17 of the Pridia Lassini Act number 5 of 2005 in existence and operational? So, yes, Mr. President, we had an answer. That came in that I saw this morning. Right? So the answer says no, it is not. Okay? And then there was another part of the question that speaks, if the fund does not exist, then provide an explanation for this deviation. So the answer that was provided, or the response that was provided, is that the Pre-Deal Larceny Act is extensive, and the process of enacting all the elements of the Act is ongoing. The recent establishment of the Pre-Deal Larceny Unit is to improve the administration and implementation of the Act. And of course, the next question said, if the fund is existent and operational then, and the answer said the Pre-Deal Larceny Fund is yet to be established. Mr. President, I know this is the answer, that our response that is provided, if I can comment.
Observations by the club. Yes, Senator Sinclair.
Okay. Mr. President, my concern is about the responses, because...
Yeah, but again, you're engaging in a debate. You have a supplemental question you wish to ask?
Well, I could ask a supplemental question, and maybe I can do that verbally if I could do that.
Yes, you can ask a supplemental question.
So the question is, bearing in mind that this act, the Pre-Deal Larceny Act, was established in 2005, to set up a fund, and we are in 2021. Based on the response provided, what has taken us so long in having this fund established? That is the question, Mr. President.
Steele?
Mr. President, once again, I'm not the minister responsible for agriculture, but I'll be happy to receive a written question. And
one second. Senator, the rules are clear. We can't have two senators standing at the same time. So if when you are standing, you direct a question, once the person the senator to whom you have directed the question gets on his feet, you automatically have to take a chair. Yes, Senator Steele.
Yes, Mr. President. So I'll be happy to receive, in my name, the questions, the follow-up questions, and I will direct those to the Ministry of Agriculture. The Minister of Agriculture will be able to provide a detailed response.
Senator Sinclair.
So, Mr. President, that took us to the end of that question. There were two other questions that were unanswered. I know they were submitted sometime around the 28th of June, and I'm not too sure the specific. I may have seen it sometime in terms of the time frame to respond to a question. The questions specifically had to deal with that matter that we had to do temporary withdrawing in our last sitting as it relates to the issue of corporate plans, which should be available since in November, thereabout, when the budget was being prepared, because the budget, national budget, is based on those plans. And, go first. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, I have it here. Okay. Okay, so the question, thank you, members. Question to the leader of government business on the requirement for every ministry and department to prepare work plans as is required by Division 4, Clause 16.3 of the Public Finance Act, Regulations of 2015. And in part, the question starts, are work plans in the form required by the Public Finance Act, Regulation 2015, Section 16.3, available for the following ministries and the related departments: Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Fisheries. And B, provide copy of the plan, of the work plan that are available for each ministry and the related departments as identified below: Agriculture, Lands, Fisheries. And the third part of the question says, as is required by Section 16(5)(c) of the Public Finance Act Regulation of 2015, provide the Uniform Resource Locators, we know it as URLs in computer science, for the corporate plan for each of the ministries and the related departments identified below: Ministries of Agriculture, Lands, and Fisheries.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Those questions, they're on the order paper. We received them last week. They've been circulated to the relevant ministries, and responses are being prepared, and we should be able to present them at the next sitting.
Senator St. Clair, sorry.
I guess, Mr. President, I cannot debate this, right?
Well, he said he was very succinct in his response.
Okay.
He received the questions last week. Mm-hmm. He has fanned the question out to the relevant ministries, and he's awaiting a response. As he speaks now, he doesn't have the response, but he is fairly confident that he will be able to provide that response by the next sitting. I don't know what debate we can have on that. That's the state of play.
Well, Mr. President, this document that I request drives the budget preparation. And for us to have a budget, we must have this document. So the question may arise as to where is this document that it's not readily available. So that's all I commented on this. So the third question asks, question to the leader of government business on scholarships awarded to Grenadians in the field of agriculture and fisheries and the related fields over the past 10 years at the bachelor's, master's, PhD, and postdoctoral levels. And it reads, Part A, provide the number of scholarships in agriculture and its related fields by the following criteria in the table below by year for the past 10 years. And there are some headings: year, field of agriculture, degree levels, number of scholarships, completed, returned. So whether they're completed and returned and working in agriculture, whether they're completed and returned but not working in agriculture, continuing to complete studies, continuing advanced studies. And for purposes, I've done similar headings for fisheries so that it's separate, okay? So I wouldn't go into that detail. That's B. And then C, ask the question, provide total number of scholarships by year, field of study, and degree level for the past 10 years in the table below. And it relates to the same fisheries and agriculture. Thank you.
Senator Steele.
So once again, Mr. President, the questions we received last week have been forwarded to the relevant ministries, and as soon as we get a response, which should be between now and the next sitting, we'll be happy to present the answers.
Yes. Senator St. Clair, let me just suggest that you don't have to wait until the Senate sits to pursue your question. You can write the Minister of Agriculture and say, well, look, I've submitted questions to the Senate, but in the meantime, I would be happy to receive a response as to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can do this. You're not constrained as a member of the House to just asking questions in the House. I mean, you can follow up a matter by writing the minister, just as any citizen can write his parliamentary representative on any question that the citizen may contemplate. So you don't have to wait until you get here, you know. So it's just a suggestion in terms of the things that you may wish to consider how you would do what you have to do. Because remember, when you put a question, especially to the leader of government's business, or to any minister sitting here in the House who sits as a parliamentarian but has executive responsibilities, remember that the minister himself don't go looking for the answers, you know. The minister who has ministerial responsibility in the cabinet submit those questions to the permanent secretary or someone designated by the permanent secretary to receive them, to get those responses. And he is relying on the responses coming to him from public officers. Yes? And while he has responsibility for the answers, because he must ensure that the answers that he gets are accurate from the public officers, he has to, you know, he has to rely on that system. I mean, I know the frustration because I went through that for 23 plus years. You know, you're just not getting answers. I remember on one occasion, I wonder if Senator Diali served with me when we were on the Public Accounts Committee. We threatened to come with a motion to hold public officers in contempt. Public officers were just refusing. In fact, one public officer just said he didn't come into the Public Accounts Committee meeting. Carte blanche. This is a public officer paid out of the public's purse, challenging the Senate. He ain't come into this meeting. So I understand your frustration, but I can assure you that your frustration is not a new discovery. Yes. So you could engage. You could also ask the permanent secretary, you know, etc. Yes. Okay. Just by way of advice. Yes. Honorable members, it's now 1 o'clock. The clerk advises me that lunch is already unavailable. I don't want to go into bills. Well, we have personal explanations and we have motions. I don't want to start that and then have to break for lunch. So I'm suggesting that we adjourn for lunch for 1 hour and be back here at 2 o'clock. Yes? So, honorable members, this House now stands adjourned for lunch and resumes promptly at 2 p.m. House now stands adjourned.
Five, then we round down or we keep the number that's in the target.
Mr. Speaker, just recently we
The number after the target is a 5 or greater, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. Then we round up That is, we add 1 to the target digit. In this case, the number after the target is 1. So which means we're going to round down or keep the number on the target as it is. Hence, 423.0172 is equal to 423.0 to 1